What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mike Versbro, and for today's video we're going to take a look at the Viltrox 24mm 1.8 lens for the Nikon Z camera system. Now full disclosure, Viltrox sent me this lens for free in exchange for an unbiased review, so let's jump right into it. The Viltrox 24mm lens is around half the price of the Nikon 24mm 1.8S lens, coming in at $429 at the time of me making this video. Now before we talk about the image quality, let's take a look at the specs. The Viltrox 24mm full frame lens weighs in around 13 ounces and is slightly smaller than the Nikon 20 and 24mm prime lenses. The aluminum alloy construction offers adequate durability to this lens, however just be aware it is not weather sealed. It has a 55mm filter thread and creates decent sun stars when shooting into the sun. Shooting wide open at 1.8 creates a pleasing bokeh, and the lens has a minimum focus distance of about 1 foot or 0.3 meters. The autofocus is quiet and smooth, but I did see a couple reviews on Amazon saying that their autofocus stopped working for them. This lens comes with a warranty card, so be sure to set that up just in case you run into any issues. I was a little nervous with the sharpness of this lens since I was not thoroughly impressed with the 35mm Viltrox lens that I reviewed in the past. But with that being said, I was actually pleasantly surprised when I started using this out in the field. So we're going to jump on the computer and I'll show you guys those results. Alright, so here we are on the computer side of things. This shot was taken with my Nikon 14-24 2.8S lens. Since I don't own the Nikon 24mm S lens, I had to use this instead. So just keep in mind what you're seeing is, it's a sharp lens, but the Nikon 24mm prime lens is definitely going to be a tad sharper than this. So that's just something to keep in the back of your mind when we do this comparison test. This photo right here is with the Viltrox at 1.8, and you can see quite a bit of barrel distortion going on as well as vignetting, and we're going to compare that with that Nikon. So let's open those two up. We'll zoom out here. On the left is the Viltrox and on the right is my Nikon. Now this is at 2.8 and the Viltrox is at 1.8, so it's a little unfair, but that's okay. We're going to zoom in here and take a look. So 200%, they look pretty close as far as sharpness goes. The Nikon right here is a little bit warmer compared to the white balance of the Viltrox, but that could be easily fixed and adjusted. Let's zoom in a little bit more to kind of distinguish a winner between sharpness. And at 300%, it looks like Nikon is a tad sharper than the Viltrox in my opinion. Let's check out the sides and the corners. So going to the left side, definitely the Nikon is sharper corner to corner. You can see it gets softer over here in the bricks with the Viltrox. And let's check out the right side. Yeah, it definitely is sharper right here on the Nikon compared to the Viltrox. But again, this is wide open at 1.8. And it's not doing a terrible job in my opinion. It's still definitely, we're pixel peeping this, so it's definitely a decent lens for most people's uses. So let's zoom out and stop down the Viltrox to 2.8 and make it a little bit more of a fair comparison. So let me select these two images again. The Viltrox is on the left at 2.8 and my Nikon is on the right at 2.8. And at 200%, they look pretty equal. I would have to give a slight edge to the Viltrox. It looks like it sharpened up quite a bit since we stopped it down to 2.8. We'll just zoom in and confirm that. Yep, it's in my opinion definitely a little bit sharper with the Viltrox. We'll check over onto the corners and sides. And the Viltrox looks much better stopped down over in this corners. We've still got the distortion going on, but as far as sharpness goes, it looks a lot better than it did at 1.8. It looks pretty good. Let's check the right side. All right, they're pretty close to each other. I have to give a slight edge to the Viltrox, I think. But yeah, they're pretty close. Let's zoom in a little bit more. It's really hard to tell on the right side here, but overall, the Viltrox is doing a lot better since we stopped it down. Now, one thing I did notice is a difference with like the focal plane with these two lenses. The prime lens seems to be a little bit more in focus even as we get closer to the camera compared to my Viltrox. You can see how soft it starts to get here in the asphalt compared to the Nikon. I'm not sure, if there'd be a huge difference if this was the 24mm prime lens by Nikon, or if it's because it's a zoom lens. But that's just something to take note of as well that I just noticed, and I figured I'd point that out to you guys. So let's close this out and check out some star images. So here we got a picture of the stars at 1.8 with the Viltrox. In the center looks decently sharp. I'm pixel peeping here at 300%. And we have some stretching towards the corners. We got a little bit of coma as well, but it's really not too bad. Shooting wide open. Definitely if you stop it down, you could get better results. I'll show you guys a comparison of it wide open compared to the Nikon. So let's do that right here. On the right is the Nikon. You can see it's just a tad sharper, a little bit noisier too, because this is at 2.8 and this is at 1.8. And again, we'll jump to the corners. You can see the Nikon, the stars a little more circular. We got some stretching going on the left side here. Let's go to the bottom left. It's a little bit softer here as well compared to the Nikon. We'll check the other corner. Yeah, you got some astigmatisms and a little bit softer as well, but not terrible. Now, I was fortunate enough to capture the Milky Way when testing out this lens. I took this at f2.8, ISO 6400 with a shutter speed of 8 seconds. I also did the same thing with my Nikon 14 to 24mm lens so we could compare the two. Now, to help me achieve focus here with the Viltrox, since it doesn't have the automatic focus like the Nikon S lenses do, I ended up using my Focus on Stars filter, and it worked out really well. I'll leave that link down below as well. Let's select the two images and go to compare. On the left here is the Viltrox, and on the right is my Nikon. And let's just zoom in here on the foreground. And they both look pretty equal in comparison. Hard to tell the difference here. And let's scroll up to the center. And they both look really sharp. It looks a little bit sharper with the Viltrox, and that could be because we had some passing clouds here in the Nikon, which will soften things up and also add a little bit of glow to the image. So that's just something to be aware of. I'm going to zoom out and head over to the left corner. Now it looks a little bit soft here in the corner compared to the Nikon, but not by much. And we do have a little bit of stretching going on, but overall it looks pretty good right there. And not a huge difference. Jumping over to the right corner, they look very similar. Again, the stars just looked a little more of an oval shape with the Viltrox compared to the Nikon. But other than that, they both look pretty sharp, and yeah, it's really hard to tell the difference. Now, I will recommend though, if you do shoot this wide open at 1.8, that you take your foreground separately from your sky, just so you can make sure you bring back some sharpness in the foreground. I highly recommend stopping this down a little bit and doing a longer exposure, and then take your sky image. Or you could also do some stacking methods as well. So that's just a little tip for you guys if you plan on using this for astrophotography. I just want to run through a couple more photos really quick. Here is a shot of my puppy at 1.8. And I was a little over a foot away. You can see a nice sharp image of his eye. And here is the lens stopped down to f16, so you guys see what kind of sunburst it creates. And I also was shooting into the sun wide open just to see if it would create any type of lens flares, but it seemed to handle that pretty well. You do have some lens fringing going on here, but again, that's pretty easy to clean up in post. Just go to our manual lens correction and defringe, and I'll get rid of that pretty easily. And jumping over here, here's a shot. I stopped down to 2.2 just to bring back a little bit of focus, because sometimes nailing focus at 1.8 it can be a little bit tricky. So at 2.2 you still have a nice bokeh and a nice sharp image going on. Overall, I'm really impressed with the Viltrox 24mm 1.8 lens. Now I know it doesn't have the corner to corner sharpness like the Nikon S lenses, but for the price you really can't beat it. It's a fantastic alternative for those that want to save some money but still have decent quality images. Now Viltrox is also running a photo contest right now, so I'm going to link that information down below, but definitely check that out. And also I'll link this lens down below as well. So take care guys, thanks for watching, have a good one, bye.